This podcast is supported by patrons. You can find a full list of them in the description of this episode. Hello, listeners and viewers of Good Morning BSS World podcast. This is Wiktor Doktór, and this is another update directly coming to us from Africa. So, if it is Africa, it means Rod Jones is on the other side of the camera. Hi, Rod. How are you today?
Hi, Victor, and to the listeners and viewers, it's really great to be back again with news, views, and updates on what's happening in our beautiful continent of Africa.
And I am more than sure there is happening a lot of interesting things, especially that we were supposed to have this recording like 2 days earlier, but there was a move of very important meeting in between. So that's why we are recording it with a small delay, but with a big update.
Excellent. Indeed, yes. Our Africa Federation of BPO GBS associations is certainly taking shape now. We have 12 countries committed so far. We have another 7 or 8 country bodies where we are assisting them with the formation of the associations, the structures, the governance issues. And that's really exciting to find countries like Namibia, like Mauritius, and Zimbabwe, where such associations don't exist yet, and yet there is an industry. So we are facilitating that process, and it's been very rewarding to see that happening. The other thing is that since the formation of the association, the federation rather, officially launched in February 2025, already there's massive amount of communication and networking and business introductions between the various entities that comprise the federation. So already we are seeing tangible benefits coming down to the individual countries and therefore their BPO operators.
You mentioned 12 countries already in. I remember our last call a month ago, there were 9. So there are 3 more which are already in this group and another 8 in the talks.
Correct. And so by the end of this year, we do foresee the possibility we'll have 20. Just if I look at the different regions, and I'm sitting here in Johannesburg, South Africa, I fall into the southern region, which would include South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. Lesotho, which you may never have heard of, but they are certainly showing interest in entering into the GBS industry. And if we're bringing Mauritius into the mix as well, our little Indian Ocean cousins out there. So we have a very vibrant BPO industry, very well supported by the new government, a lot of incentives, a lot of growth potential, I think, for servicing, particularly the European market with French.
Yeah.
We also have identified operators in Madagascar and Mozambique. So that would be the southern region. Now, we've had a lot of activity down here in the southern region. In fact, yesterday at our Federation Steerco feedback session, the chair lady for Southern Region, Reshni Singh, who's also the CEO of BPESA, our national body, reported back on some very interesting stuff happening. BPESA, that's the South African body, relaunched its value propositions, been completely revamped. It was done in association with Everest, so we're having a lot of international players in there. So that was launched in the last couple of weeks. There's a brand new incentive program from the government stimulating FDI, foreign inward investment, and job creation, and particular emphasis on impact sourcing. We'll talk a bit more about that later. We also had a visit from Danielle Julien, from the CEO of TP, previously Teleperformance, who visited South Africa as part of a roadshow right across Africa, reaffirming as the world's largest GPS BPO provider with excess of 500,000 people working in that organization, reaffirming the commitment to Africa from the southern tip where we are to the northern reaches of Egypt. So TP live and well and growing in Africa. And So I think we're also looking very much now at developing our second tier cities. As those who know GBS in South Africa, we have Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town, with Cape Town being the premier hub for BPO, but also starting to experience a bit of overgrowth perhaps. And so there's a lot of exploratory work taking place into second and third tier towns and cities for the location of BPOs. So a lot of activity in South Africa. Zimbabwe, which is I'm very, very close to. I've worked with the Call Center Association in Zimbabwe for many years. We now have a formal structure for a BPO GBS body. The chairman has been appointed, the steering committee has been appointed, and we've provided templates and frameworks for constitutions, governance issues, etc. So watch this space. I'm a firm believer in Zimbabwe will soon emerge. At the moment, running around between 10 and 15,000 agents. Servicing international business, a lot of it being serviced, believe it or not, US business. Then Namibia, strong interest. A group came together. We facilitated a webinar a couple of weeks ago, about 8 players in there, including government and city representatives. So we'll be looking both as CX and BPO in a brand new association there. I mentioned Lesotho, very keen to come aboard, and Mauritius coming aboard as well. So that really means that the southern regions, dynamic, growing, South Africa getting up to over 200,000 agents now, so well matured. Then if we look to, let me pause there. Are there any questions you might have, Wiktor, about?
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. West Africa. Now, West Africa, we are very fortunate to have in our federation the chair lady of the outsourced to Nigeria organization, very strong support from government, and Lady Amal Hussein, who many might know. She travels extensively, flying the flag for Nigeria and also for the western region of the Federation, which includes at this time Ghana and Sierra Leone that we're in discussions with as well. But if we look at the work being done in Nigeria, it's phenomenal. An organization called WorkNation.Africa, you might want to have a look at that. It's a job creation, impact sourcing, networking platform that already has 6 million registrants on it, and it's facilitating employment within our sector, not only within Nigeria, but literally across the Central and West African regions. So a lot of partnership and discussions underway with investments going into Nigeria, some of the really big international GBS operators looking at Nigeria as a location. You have high levels of education, relatively high levels of unemployment. So it indicates a strong work ethic and strong technical abilities, which is an interesting one there to see. So a lot of government-led BPO initiatives happening there. Ghana, as I mentioned, the government has really come out in full support of GBS and BPO. So in the process of crafting incentives and other initiatives to stimulate investment into the country. As an aside, although it falls into the central region, Uganda also has an association now recently formed and will soon be joining our federation. A lot of industry interest in supporting CX and BPO in Uganda as such. If we move across to East Africa, now the East Africa Steerco chairperson is an interesting young gentleman by the name of Von Wiesen Zwedi. And so he represents both Ethiopia and Kenya. So if we look at Ethiopia, and I've done a lot of work up in Ethiopia in the past, helping the Ethiopian Airlines build their contact center. And out of interest was the first certified world-class contact center in Africa as Ethiopian Airlines in Addis. But the industry there has really gone in leaps and bounds, and it's thanks to the leadership that we have with One Decent. So there's an IT park in Ethiopia, in Addis, um, going through the process of being structured as a special economic zone. Of course, that will make a lot of economic sense and financial sense once that becomes through into fruition. The organization and the local association is pushing for policy advocacy. An interesting one, in Ethiopia, all businesses need to be licensed, and currently there's no category for a BPO operator. And so the industry body is pushing for advocacy and a special category for licensing, which would mean that that would open up a lot of incentives and support from government. A lot of research taking place in the territory, skills development project in association with 6 universities participating in that study, looking at the educational pipeline through to employment in the GBS sector. So it's one of the territories where government is taking education, specifically focusing on the talent, the skills required in the GBS arena, taking it very, very seriously. So in Ethiopia, definitely got the ear of government, recognition by the government and the various departments of the association. We jump a little bit back to Kenya. There's a lot of multi-country skilling taking place there. MasterCard Foundation and the German GIZ, very interested and placing a lot of emphasis on job creation, impact sourcing, stimulating FDI into Kenya as well. So the East African region, very alive and well, and growing from strength to strength, gathering a lot of international attention. As you know, we've mentioned it before, we have major operators like CCI, really well entrenched and producing some amazing work, and really flying the flag for GBS across that region. Then, of course, the exciting side is the North Africa region, represented on the steerco by the dynamic Rolana Rashwan, who you might have met, and she's really the star of the show up in the north side of the continent. And Egypt is forging ahead with growth and development. So we have organizations like Capgemini launching an AI Center of Excellence, and have undertaken to double their workforce to around about 2,500 by the end of 2025. So a lot of growth happening in there. IGT have opened a new delivery center, and so there's a lot more interest coming from India into developing GBS and BPO in Egypt. Rolana reported yesterday in our steerco meeting that she was very proud that Egypt was awarded the fastest fixed broadband in Africa award, done by the Speed Test Awards. So it's quite something to say for Egypt. Another passion that Rolana has personally and reports on as the association is disability inclusion. So projects and workshops supported by the GIZ and the Egyptian government, really pushing that global disability and inclusion across the GBS sector as well. She reports strong presence on the Mobile World Congress held in Barcelona recently, and strong presence also in the GITEX events taking place. I think there's one in Morocco taking place right now. There'll be one in Germany on the 22nd, 23rd of May. Now, as Federation, we're very proud of the fact that 5 of our steerco members have been invited to Germany for the GITEX event, and will be flying the Federation flag there for us. And that really is the wrap up on what's happening across Africa as we speak. There are obviously other pockets of activities, and be delighted to keep you up to speed and your viewers and listeners. But part of our role as the Federation is to bring Africa to the world, but also to bring the world to Africa. So we would welcome any inquiries, discussions from any parties interested in what's happening in the BPO GBS world in Africa. That would include operators, technology providers, telco providers, comms providers, training providers. So please join us, follow our progress. You'll find us on LinkedIn. You'll find our website as well. We'll be starting a series of webinars. The first is on the 30th of April. We'll be focusing a lot of attention on impact sourcing in Africa, and it's a red flag that we're aware of is the danger of a burgeoning, growing market, BPO market like Africa. The danger is that we could be misused as a location of ultra low cost labor and therefore start getting into the sweatshop category. And so we're spending a lot of time, energy, and effort of communicating the advantages, benefits, best practices of impact sourcing. So join us on the 30th of April. It'll be chaired by a well-known friend of all of ours, Tracy Freeman, and others like John Yarlett is also on the panel there as well. So, and those will be monthly webinars. We'll be looking at business development into Africa. We'll be looking at infrastructural development. We'll be looking at standards and best practices. So a lot of exciting times ahead for us, which we'll be very pleased to share with your platform, Wiktor. Thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely, Rod. As usual, a great portion of information. By the way, I will start from the end. So, with this webinar, feel free actually to share with us more details about this event. So, we will put it on Focus on Business platform, and we will direct the traffic to this webinar. So, this should be in the scope of this what people in Europe are seeing and viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope this will help also to get more viewers and active players on this webinar. But that's just a short comment. I will come back to one thing because when you were mentioning the East update from East Africa in Ethiopia, you mentioned that there is an IT park which is now trying to be included or to be transferred to be a special economy zone.
Correct.
Question from my side. Is something like special economy zone a big, let's say, topic across Africa? So are there many such zones across Africa, and the BPO GBS industry is also using some grants or some offer which those special economic zone offer, or this is just one single thing which is just happening now in Ethiopia?
No, I think it's bigger than just Ethiopia. We've seen similar developments starting. They're not necessarily formulated yet in Ghana, in Nigeria, definitely in Kenya, and now Ethiopia. Don't have full details on them and what the protocols are and what the incentive benefits are, but they're linked very closely, as they do in most parts of the world,
Yep.
with government incentives to stimulate investment into the regions. So we'll keep an eye on those very carefully.
Oh, definitely. The reason why I asked this question is that, for example, in Poland, we do have several special economy zones, and they do have various offers for different industries, where the BPO industry is one of them. And of course, there are different, let's say, programs which can be used by investors representing either GBS companies or R&D companies or IT businesses and so on and so on. So I am keeping my fingers crossed actually for growing this kind of areas across African countries, because they really work. In Poland, they worked for the last 2 decades probably. Now the structure of the special economy zones has a little bit changed, so they have now a different role. But on the time when we were looking for the new foreign investments, they did an excellent job. Yeah, so I hope this is going to happen also in Africa now.
Well, I think one of the functions of the federation is to source information and make sure it's shared. So
Yeah.
I would certainly, I've made notes to engage with some of the association members and say, well, if you need more information about special economic zones, let's find this comparative person in Poland and find out what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely. I do have contacts with several CEOs of the special economy zones which are in Poland. So if there will be a need anytime, we can connect the special economy zone from Ethiopia, for example, with a special economy zone from the city of Łódź, for example, and build some kind of a know-how transfer or
Yeah,
something like that. Why not to
that's
do that? Yeah.
that's
Why
why
not
we're
to do
here.
that? And
Excellent.
and one last thing, when you were talking about the South Africa, talking about the tier 2, tier 3 locations, yeah, this
Hmm.
is actually again a very interesting move, which is also quite popular in the Central and Eastern Europe, where not only the tier 1 locations are the homes for the BPO GBS centers, but already tier 2, tier 3, and even sometimes in Poland I find tier 4 locations which already do have first
Hmm.
companies over there. So it looks like this is again a global trend, and in South Africa it is going to have a similar approach.
I think, as much as I support it, there's an upside downside to tier three in particular, where there's no shortage of labor and there's no shortage of skill, except there's a shortage of middle and senior management, operational management. And so what we're finding in South Africa, some of the tier two and tier threes are very attractive coastal locations on the beach or close to the beach that many people find very attractive. Middle managers, team leaders, supervisors, etc. And so I think I foresee that the physical location of these tier twos and tier threes will be important from the point of view of attracting the more senior management. Um,
Yeah,
into,
definitely. But you know, it can work like this, that you can transfer a senior person for the period of, I don't know, 12 months, for example, to something to for the very beginning, and then to create a local manager who is just getting the skills
yeah.
from the more experienced person, and then is running such a center. This is something what is quite common. That of course you need to transfer somebody who is wise, experienced, and has already done a number of things on their business life track, I would say, and then trains the others. So train the trainer process can work also on the train the manager process. Yeah.
Yeah, very definitely. The trick is to get them there in the first place.
Of course. Oh, you can find some incentives.
Yeah,
You know, Rod, thank you very much. It was absolutely a
very good.
pleasure to talk to you. I have 4 pages of notes after our today's call. So as usual, I will of course add the proper links to the description of this podcast, so to allow people to go for more details. And I'm already looking forward to our call within the next month to see what will happen, because within this 1 month happened so much.
Indeed. Well, I look forward to it and look forward to the prospect of meeting up with you in the not too distant future.
Thank you very much, Rod, for today.